Life is constantly throwing challenges our way, sometimes in the form of annoying drivers, frustrating conversations, or unexpected setbacks. Ever noticed how quickly your day can change with just one comment, a look from someone, or even a single social media post? One moment you're feeling okay, and in the next, your mood plummets, your mind races, and you're stuck in an emotional spiral. But what if I told you there's a way to change all of that? To regain control over your emotional reactions and not let life dictate your mood, what if you could stop taking everything personally, learn to pause before reacting, and protect your inner peace like a leader? In this audiobook, we'll explore the powerful tools that can transform how you experience life's daily challenges. It's not about avoiding the tests life throws at you, but about mastering your response. Ready to uncover the secret to remaining calm when everything around you feels chaotic? Let's dive into the first chapter of your journey to becoming unbothered. Chapter 1. Stop taking everything personally. Life is a series of emotional tests. We've all been there. Someone ignores your message, or a colleague disagrees with you in a meeting. You think to yourself, what did I do wrong? Your mind jumps to conclusions, and just like that, a simple interaction turns into a story. A story that feeds into your emotions, and soon enough, you're spiraling into a reaction. But here's the truth. Most of what happens around us has very little to do with us. People react based on their own moods, stresses, and insecurities. It's not personal, even when it feels like it. And yet, so many of us internalize these external events, letting them shape how we feel, think, and behave. Why does this happen? It's because the brain is wired to interpret everything through the lens of the self. It's constantly asking, what does this mean about me? The problem is, this automatic reaction keeps us trapped. When we take everything personally, we give away our emotional control. A random comment can shift our mood. A slight misunderstanding can ruin our day. But when you stop personalizing every interaction, your entire emotional experience changes. You no longer absorb the chaos of other people. Instead, you begin to observe. You create distance between their actions and your emotional state. Imagine this: two coworkers receive the same criticism from their boss. The first one thinks, they think I'm incompetent. The second one thinks, they're just stressed, let me figure out what's useful here. Same words, different interpretation, and most importantly, different emotional outcomes. When we stop taking things personally, we regain our emotional stability. But this isn't a one-time switch, it's a practice. The next time someone's behavior triggers you, pause and ask yourself, what else could this mean? Challenge your initial reaction. Maybe they're tired, maybe they misunderstood, maybe they're distracted. This simple habit inserts logic into a space usually filled with ego. You begin to realize that not every situation requires your defense. Not every comment demands your explanation, and not every situation needs your emotional energy. By learning to stop taking everything personally, you're practicing the art of emotional resilience. It's not about suppressing your emotions, it's about separating your identity from external events. When you understand this on a deeper level, you'll find yourself less reactive, more centered, and ultimately more in control. If you're enjoying this audiobook, consider subscribing to Blue Wave Audiobook for more inspiring content like this. Chapter 2. Build the space between feeling and reaction. There's a powerful moment, often fleeting and barely noticeable, that occurs between what happens to you and how you respond. Most people don't recognize it. Someone says something cutting, your chest tightens, your thoughts speed up, and before you know it, you're reacting. This entire process can happen in the blink of an eye. But within that fraction of a second is the power to change your emotional trajectory. The difference between reacting and responding is time. Reaction is immediate. It's driven by your emotions, instinct, and often regret. Response, on the other hand, is intentional. It's the space between the feeling and the action, where your conscious mind takes the wheel. The ability to pause, even for just a few seconds, gives you control over your emotions and actions. When you train this pause, you become deliberate, calm, and strategic in how you react. Think about the last time you regretted something you said. It wasn't planned, was it? Chances are you were triggered and you responded without thinking. A tone felt disrespectful, an assumption felt unfair, and suddenly you were caught up in the rush of emotions. But if you had just taken a moment to pause, to breathe, you would have responded differently. The argument would have cooled, the tension would have eased, and your clarity would have remained intact. This small moment of pause is the difference between emotional chaos and emotional mastery. It's like putting a brake on your automatic reactions and choosing your path with intention. Here's a simple exercise. When you feel triggered, give yourself a 3-second pause. No speaking, no texting, no reaction, just breathe. Slowly inhale, exhale, and let your nervous system reset. In that brief moment, you give yourself access to a new question. What outcome do I want here? It's no longer about defending yourself or proving a point. It's about choosing what's best for you in that moment. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Imagine a heated meeting where someone challenges your idea. Your first instinct is to snap back, but instead of reacting, you pause. You breathe, you respond calmly. That's an interesting point. Let's explore that. Suddenly, the dynamic shifts. You're in control. You haven't escalated. You've stayed steady, and that steadiness is power. This ability to pause doesn't just build respect from others, it also protects you from manipulation. Some people thrive on creating tension. They poke, they prod, they test your boundaries. If they can trigger you, they can control you. But when you are not easily moved, you take away their power. That's why composure is a form of leadership. You control your emotional state, and in doing so, you control the situation. But let's be real for a second. Pausing can feel uncomfortable. Emotion rises and it screams for release. It demands to be heard, to be acknowledged. But that urgency is an illusion. Emotions are like waves. They rise, they peak, and then they fall. If you give in to that wave, you amplify it. But if you ride the wave, you pass through it without letting it drown you. There's a powerful story about a man who trained himself to delay sending emotional emails for 24 hours. Whenever he felt angry or upset, he would write the email but wouldn't send it immediately. The next day, he would reread it, and most of the time, he deleted it. The emotion that felt so overwhelming in the moment had faded, and clarity had emerged. This principle can be applied in everyday life. When triggered, delay your response. Step away from the situation. Lower your voice instead of raising it. Take a breath instead of reacting instantly. By training yourself to pause before reacting, you shift your identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who reacts impulsively. You see yourself as someone who remains steady. And that steadiness becomes the foundation for your emotional strength. If you're finding value in this audiobook, make sure to hit subscribe to Blue Wave Audiobook for more insights on emotional mastery. Stay steady, stay calm, and keep learning with us. Chapter 3. Let people misunderstand you. One of the strongest emotional triggers we face in life is the fear of being misunderstood. It feels like a personal attack when someone misinterprets your words or intentions, doesn't get your point, or forms an opinion about you without knowing the full story. The instinct is to clarify, to correct, to defend. You want to make sure that everyone sees you for who you really are. But here's the harsh truth. If you need everyone to understand you in order to feel at peace, you will never find true peace. There will always be people who don't get you, who misunderstand your motives, your intentions, and your actions. And that's okay. The moment you realize this, you free yourself from the constant cycle of trying to explain, justify, or over-explain yourself. Not everyone is meant to understand you. Not everyone deserves your explanation. Misunderstanding is a natural part of life. People view the world through their own lens, shaped by their experiences, biases, and insecurities. Trying to control how others perceive you only leads to frustration and exhaustion. Think about how much energy you've spent trying to convince people of your truth. You replay conversations in your mind, craft perfect responses, and mentally prepare for future arguments that may never happen. You get trapped in this endless loop of trying to control perceptions that are beyond your influence. But the truth is, no amount of explanation changes how someone feels about you if they've already made up their mind. Letting people misunderstand you is one of the greatest signs of emotional maturity. It's not about being cold or indifferent. It's about choosing peace over ego. It's about realizing that your peace doesn't depend on someone else's approval. The calm person does not rush to correct every misunderstanding. They don't waste energy on defending their every move. Instead, they stand firm in their own sense of self, knowing that their value isn't determined by other people's opinions. It's important to note that this doesn't mean you should never clarify something that's truly important, or that someone misjudges you in a way that directly impacts your life. But in the grand scheme of things, not every misunderstanding is worth your energy. Not every situation requires your defense. Not every relationship needs that level of emotional investment. And when you stop trying to explain yourself constantly, you'll find that your mental space becomes clearer. You can conserve your emotional resources for what truly matters. There's a story about a senior executive who was known for staying composed during meetings, even when challenged aggressively. One day, a junior employee asked him how he stayed so calm in those situations. His answer was simple: "If I reacted to every tone in this room, I would never make decisions. I listen for information, not emotion." This is the key. He separated the content from the emotion. He didn't see someone's criticism as an attack on his identity. He saw it as an opportunity to gather information, to improve, to grow. Emotional detachment is the key to avoiding the trap of needing to be understood. It's not about suppressing your emotions or dismissing others. It's about realizing that you can't control how people perceive you, and more importantly, you don't have to. You don't need their approval to feel validated. When you accept that misunderstanding is inevitable, you can move forward without getting emotionally bogged down by the need for constant clarification. Here's a powerful question to ask yourself. Are you explaining yourself for clarity, or are you explaining yourself to protect your ego? If it's about your ego, pause. The need to be understood by everyone is rooted in insecurity. True peace comes from self-acceptance. When you know who you are, when you are aligned with your values, external opinions lose their grip on you. The more you live authentically, the more you will notice that misunderstandings don't hold as much weight. And when they do happen, you'll know how to handle them with grace and poise. By allowing people to misunderstand you, you create space for your true self to emerge, unshaken and unmoved by external judgment. It's a quiet confidence that says, "I know who I am. Your opinion does not define me." That's the power of emotional maturity. If you're enjoying this audiobook and feel inspired to live a more grounded, unbothered life, don't forget to subscribe to Blue Wave Audiobook for more empowering content. Stay authentic, stay grounded, and keep learning with us. Chapter 4: Master the Art of Emotional Detachment. When most people hear the term emotional detachment, they imagine someone cold, distant, and uncaring. But emotional detachment is nothing like that. It's not about suppressing your feelings or turning into a robot who doesn't feel anything. On the contrary, true emotional detachment is about feeling without being ruled by those feelings. It's the ability to care without clinging, to engage with the world around you without losing yourself in it. Most of us don't suffer because we experience emotions. We suffer because we fuse with them. We let anger consume us, jealousy overwhelm us, disappointment crush us. When emotions become your identity, stability disappears. But what if I told you that you can experience all of these emotions without letting them dictate your actions? Emotional detachment starts with this powerful realization. You are not your emotions. Emotions are experiences, passing through you like waves crashing onto the shore. Some waves are small and gentle, while others are powerful and chaotic. But no matter how intense the wave, the ocean itself remains steady. You are the ocean. Your emotions are the waves. Let me break it down further. Imagine standing on a beach watching waves hit the shore. The waves come and go, but the ocean stays constant. Similarly, your emotions come and go, but your core, your true self, remains unchanged. When you identify with every wave, you're tossed around by every emotional shift. But when you step back and observe those waves, you remain steady. That's the essence of emotional detachment. Let's make this practical. The next time you feel anger rising during a disagreement, instead of saying, "I'm angry," try saying internally, "Anger is present." That small shift in language makes a huge difference. "I am angry" feels permanent, personal, and identity-based. "Anger is present" feels temporary, observable, and manageable. It's the difference between becoming the emotion and simply witnessing it. This skill can completely change how you experience conflict. Without emotional detachment, every conflict feels like a battle for survival. You take every word personally. You react impulsively, driven by the need to defend yourself. But when you detach emotionally, conflict becomes data. You can observe the tone, the words, the context, without feeling personally attacked. You can ask, "What's actually happening here?" instead of "Why is this happening to me?" There's a story about a martial artist who was renowned for staying calm during sparring. When asked how he stayed so composed, he said, "I don't see the opponent as an enemy. I see movement. I respond to movement." He didn't see aggression in his opponent's actions. He saw information that he could respond to strategically. That's the power of emotional detachment. Instead of reacting to the emotional narrative, you respond to the situation itself. Emotional detachment also protects you from overinvesting in other people's emotional turbulence. When you attach your happiness to one person's behavior or one outcome, your peace becomes fragile. If that person behaves in a way you don't like, or if things don't go as planned, your emotional state crashes. But when you practice detachment, you learn that you can care deeply without being defined by the outcome. You can pursue your goals, love deeply, and engage with the world, all without letting your identity hinge on external circumstances. In relationships, detachment allows you to love without clinging. When someone withdraws or behaves in a way that triggers you, the urge is to chase clarity, to demand explanations, to seek reassurance. But that pursuit of certainty often increases your emotional instability. Detachment asks you to pause, to observe, and to decide your next step based on clarity, not desperation. The key to emotional detachment is not avoidance or suppression, it's regulation. You acknowledge your emotions, but choose when and how to act on them. You can feel anger and choose calm words. You can feel hurt and choose dignity. You can feel disappointment and choose constructive action. This is emotional mastery. Here's a powerful exercise for you. When you're feeling strong emotion, whether anger, sadness, or frustration, pause and ask yourself, how can I respond in a way that reflects my values, not my emotional impulses? This small pause will train you to act with intention rather than reacting impulsively. With practice, this response becomes automatic. You stop being dragged into every emotional exchange. Instead, you remain grounded, steady, and in control. The more you practice emotional detachment, the more stable you become. You stop absorbing other people's moods. You stop feeling obligated to match their energy. If someone raises their voice, you lower yours. If someone reacts dramatically, you stay steady. This emotional resilience doesn't just make you stronger, it makes you magnetic. People respect those who remain composed under pressure, who are not easily swayed by external chaos. Remember, detachment is not about disconnecting from life. It's about engaging with life without losing yourself in it. You can still feel joy, love, and excitement. You can still pursue your passions with intensity. But you don't cling to the outcome. You don't spiral when things don't go your way. You remain centered, unshaken, and unbothered. If you're learning to stay steady and grounded in emotional chaos, be sure to subscribe to Blue Wave Audiobook for more guidance on mastering your inner world. We're here to help you stay unbothered, even when life tries to pull you into the storm. Chapter 5. Stop needing closure from everyone. One of the most underrated emotional traps we fall into is the need for closure. We all crave it at some point, wanting that final conversation, the apology, the moment when everything makes sense. We want the loose ends tied up neatly, the misunderstanding cleared up, and the emotional weight lifted. We believe that closure will give us peace, that it will bring resolution to the chaos we feel inside. But here's the hard truth. Closure is not something that others grant you. It is something you decide for yourself. Think about how much energy you've spent waiting for closure. You wait for the apology that may never come, the acknowledgement that might never happen, the explanation that could remain out of reach. And in that waiting, your mind becomes stuck. You replay conversations over and over. You imagine alternate endings. You draft messages you never send. You become mentally tethered to someone who has already moved on. And while they're living their life, you're stuck in an emotional limbo, waiting for something that may never come. The reality is that waiting for someone else to give you closure is a form of emotional dependence. It places your peace in someone else's hands, but the moment you take control of your own closure, you release yourself from that dependence. You no longer wait for someone else to validate your feelings or explain their actions. Instead, you validate yourself. You say, "That hurt, that wasn't okay, it's over now, I'm moving forward." Letting go of the need for closure is an act of self-empowerment. It's about accepting that not every chapter will have a neat ending. Not every relationship will come with the explanation you seek. Sometimes, life doesn't give you the answers you want, and that's okay. Closure isn't about understanding everything or having everything resolved. It's about acceptance. Acceptance that it happened. Acceptance that it may never be explained. Acceptance that you cannot control other people's awareness or actions. When you reach this point of acceptance, the emotional charge of unresolved situations begins to dissipate. You no longer feel the urgency to revisit the past, to chase explanations that will never come, or to fix what was never yours to fix. You simply move on. This doesn't mean you ignore boundaries or let people walk all over you. If someone repeatedly disrespects you, you distance yourself. If someone betrays you, you withdraw trust. If someone crosses a line, you set clear boundaries. But the key is this: you don't need their approval or their acknowledgement to make that decision. You act from clarity, not desperation. You don't need the conversation to make things right. You make things right by protecting your own peace. One of the most powerful ways to stop needing closure is to shift your focus inward. Ask yourself, why am I waiting for this explanation? What do I really need to feel at peace with this situation? The answer is often not about the other person. It's about your ability to find peace on your own terms. There's a story of a business partnership that ended suddenly. One partner felt betrayed and demanded answers, while the other partner quietly moved on without much explanation. For months, the first partner obsessed over what went wrong. He replayed conversations, crafted arguments in his head, and waited for some form of closure. But eventually, he realized something powerful. No explanation was going to change the outcome. The partnership was over. The only thing that was still active was his attachment to the narrative. Once he accepted that, he was free. He stopped waiting for closure and redirected his energy toward rebuilding. Closure doesn't always come in the form of a conversation. Sometimes it comes in the form of acceptance. Sometimes it comes from realizing that the story you've been holding onto doesn't define you anymore. And sometimes it comes from choosing not to engage with the past anymore, from deciding that your future is more important than chasing the approval of others. There's a profound strength in knowing that you don't need someone else's explanation to feel complete. Your sense of self doesn't depend on external validation. When you no longer chase closure from others, you take back your emotional independence. You free yourself from the endless loop of wondering why something happened or how it could have been different. You decide to move forward without waiting for permission, and that decision is the ultimate form of closure. Here's the key question to ask yourself: can you find peace without needing someone else's explanation? If the answer is yes, you'll experience a profound shift in your emotional landscape. You'll stop chasing answers that don't matter and start living a life that's focused on what you can control, your own peace and emotional stability. If you're ready to let go of the need for closure and step into a life of emotional freedom, subscribe to Blue Wave Audiobook for more content on mastering your inner world. We're here to help you stay grounded and move forward with clarity. Chapter 6. Become comfortable with discomfort. Discomfort is an unavoidable part of life. Whether it's the sting of criticism, the tension of uncertainty, or the uneasy silence in a conversation, discomfort is always present in some form. Yet for many, discomfort triggers an automatic reaction. It's uncomfortable, so we try to eliminate it. We argue to remove tension. We explain to remove misunderstanding. We react to pressure because it feels urgent. But what if I told you that the ability to stay unbothered hinges on your tolerance for discomfort? Discomfort isn't your enemy. In fact, it's often the gateway to emotional strength. Much like physical training, the more you challenge your emotional tolerance, the stronger you become. Just as muscles grow by resisting resistance, your emotional resilience builds when you learn to endure discomfort without collapsing into it. Think about the last time you felt uncomfortable. Maybe someone criticized you, or perhaps you found yourself in an awkward situation. Your body reacted first, heart racing, face flushed, mind speeding up. The discomfort whispered, react, defend yourself. It urged you to remove the discomfort by taking immediate action. But here's the truth. When you act impulsively to eliminate discomfort, you only create more instability. Let's explore this concept further. In the physical world, when someone starts lifting weights, they feel the burn. Muscles resist, they shake, and it's uncomfortable. But if they stop at the first sign of discomfort, they won't grow stronger. The key to physical strength is pushing through the discomfort, allowing it to build the muscle. Emotional growth works the same way. When you feel criticized, when you're ignored, when you're unsure of the future, these moments are your emotional training. The more you sit with them, the more emotionally resilient you become. Here's a practical example. Imagine you're in a conversation and someone challenges your opinion. Your heart rate increases, your thoughts speed up, and you feel that rush to defend yourself. Instead of reacting, pause. Allow that discomfort to exist without acting on it. You'll notice something powerful. The discomfort peaks and then begins to fade. You realize that you survived it without needing to react. That experience builds confidence. It's a reminder that you can handle emotional pressure. This principle applies to all types of discomfort: social tension, uncertainty, criticism, rejection. You can't avoid these things, but you can learn to stay calm in the face of them. The key is to practice. The next time you're in a tense conversation, resist the urge to fill the silence. Let the awkwardness sit. When you feel pressure to respond to criticism, pause before speaking. When you feel uncertainty about the future, breathe and center yourself. These small moments of enduring discomfort build emotional muscle. One of the most powerful ways to build emotional endurance is to expose yourself to discomfort intentionally. If silence makes you uncomfortable, practice sitting with it. Let the awkward pauses breathe. If criticism rattles you, practice hearing it without defending yourself immediately. Instead, respond with, "I'll think about that," or "Thank you for the feedback." If uncertainty causes anxiety, practice making decisions without overanalyzing every possible outcome. Each time you face discomfort without reacting, you reinforce your emotional strength. You stop being moved by every wave of emotion. You stop feeling like you have to smooth over every awkward moment. You stop chasing validation or reassurance. Instead, you develop an internal sense of calm. You start to see discomfort as something that passes, not something that defines you. There's also a layer of discomfort in personal growth. As you begin to set boundaries, people may react negatively. If you stop engaging in drama, others may try to provoke you. But that's a sign that you're changing patterns. Discomfort in growth is temporary. It's a sign that you're stepping into a new version of yourself. Discomfort doesn't mean danger. It simply means unfamiliarity. Your nervous system labels unfamiliar emotional states as threats. But when you repeatedly sit with those emotions, you realize they aren't as threatening as they seem. And over time, the discomfort becomes less intense, less overwhelming. There's a fascinating practice that combines physical and emotional discomfort: cold showers, intense workouts, or even controlled breathwork exercises. These activities teach you how to remain calm in the face of physical stress. When you train your body to stay steady under pressure, it naturally translates to emotional situations. When someone raises their voice or tries to provoke you, you don't flinch, you breathe, you steady yourself. Let me give you a quick exercise. Next time you're faced with an emotionally charged situation, try this. Pause, breathe deeply, and say to yourself, I can handle this. It's a small mantra, but it's powerful. Every time you remind yourself that discomfort doesn't control you, you expand your emotional capacity. You become more unbothered, more resilient, and more empowered. The more you practice sitting with discomfort, the more you become unshaken by life's tests. You stop feeling overwhelmed by tension, criticism, rejection, or uncertainty. Instead, you become steady, calm, and unwavering. Discomfort no longer controls you because you've learned how to endure it. If you're ready to build your emotional muscle and become unbothered in the face of discomfort, be sure to subscribe to Blue Wave Audiobook. We're here to guide you through your journey of emotional mastery. Chapter 7. Stop needing to win every argument in today's world. Everyone seems to be vying for the upper hand. Whether it's in the workplace, social media, or even among friends, the need to be right is everywhere. Many people, whether they admit it or not, feel a compulsive need to win every argument. It's as if winning validates their worth and confirms their intelligence. The urge to prove someone wrong or to defend our position becomes so intense that it clouds our judgment. But here's the truth. The need to win every argument is one of the biggest emotional traps that keep us reactive, drained, and emotionally unstable. Let's think about it for a second. How often have you found yourself in a conversation, not listening to the other person, but instead focusing on how you're going to prove them wrong? You raise your voice, tighten your posture, and sharpen your tone, all because your ego is invested in winning. But in that moment, you're not calm. You're competing. You're not having a conversation. You're engaging in a battle for dominance. And when you win that battle, what do you really gain? A fleeting sense of superiority, a temporary sense of being right. That's it. The problem is that in the heat of these debates, your nervous system gets activated. Your heart rate increases, your thoughts narrow, and your mind becomes focused on how to win. The more you engage in these types of exchanges, the more you reinforce this behavior. It becomes a habit, a pattern of emotional reactivity. You feel like you need to defend yourself, to assert control, to prove your point. But in the end, all you're doing is draining your emotional energy and creating more tension, not resolution. The key to staying unbothered is realizing that not every argument is worth your time or energy. Not every disagreement requires your involvement. Sometimes, the strongest move you can make is strategic disengagement. Imagine this scenario. A colleague challenges your idea in a meeting. Your first instinct is to jump in and correct them, to prove that your idea is better. But instead, you pause. You take a deep breath. You respond with a calm, "That's an interesting point. Let's explore that further." In that moment, you've not only maintained your composure, but also taken the higher road. You didn't engage in the emotional battle. You didn't let your ego dictate the conversation. And as a result, you've not only preserved your peace, but also commanded more respect from those around you. When you stop feeling the need to win every argument, something amazing happens. You start conserving your emotional energy. You stop getting pulled into every drama, every debate, every situation where your ego feels threatened. Instead, you become more focused on what truly matters. You begin to see arguments not as a challenge to your identity, but as an opportunity for constructive exchange. When you're not emotionally invested in winning, you're free to think clearly and act with intention. But how do you do this? How do you step away from the automatic urge to defend yourself or prove a point? The first step is awareness. The next time you feel that urge rising, ask yourself, what am I really trying to win here? Is it the truth or is it my pride? More often than not, the urge to argue stems from ego, not logic. If you recognize that, you can begin to choose a different path. You can choose to let go of the need to be right, and instead, focus on what's actually important in the situation. There's also a great deal of wisdom in letting others think they've won. If the outcome doesn't truly impact your life or your long-term goals, why waste your energy? Imagine being in a conversation where someone insists on being right about a small detail. You could engage in a lengthy back and forth trying to prove your point, or you could simply step back and say, "That's fine, we can agree to disagree." By disengaging, you preserve your emotional stability. You don't give in to the need to be right, and in doing so, you hold on to your peace. The reality is, most arguments are not about facts, they're about ego. Two people fighting to protect their identity, their self-worth, and their pride. When you approach arguments with the intention to win, you're feeding into that ego-driven cycle. But when you choose to disengage, you not only free yourself from this cycle, but you also demonstrate emotional maturity. You stop identifying with every fight and instead identify with your ability to remain calm, composed, and unbothered. This doesn't mean you should never assert your boundaries or stand up for yourself. Some situations absolutely require firmness, but there's a difference between standing your ground and fighting for dominance. Standing your ground is calm, firm, and direct. It's a simple statement of your perspective or needs. Fighting for dominance is emotional, defensive, and reactive. When you stop fighting for dominance, you regain control over your emotional state. Another truth to keep in mind is that you cannot reason someone out of a position they didn't reason themselves into. Some arguments are driven by emotion, not logic. Trying to win them is a waste of time and energy. If someone is committed to misunderstanding you, no amount of explanation will change that. Instead, ask yourself, does this disagreement matter in the long term? Does it align with my values? Does it serve my emotional well-being to engage in this? If the answer is no, then step back. Choose to protect your peace over defending your ego. When you let go of the need to win every argument, you shift your mindset. You no longer view interactions as battles to be won. You view them as opportunities to exchange perspectives. You stop worrying about being right and start focusing on what truly matters, staying steady, calm, and grounded. And in doing so, you gain something far more valuable than being right. You gain respect. Because people trust those who remain composed in the heat of conflict. People respect those who know when to engage and when to step back. If you're ready to stop fighting for dominance and start focusing on your emotional control, subscribe to Blue Wave Audiobook. We're here to help you become the calm, steady person in any room. Chapter 8. Protect your energy like a leader in a world that never stops moving, constantly buzzing with notifications, social media updates, and the demands of others. It's easy to find ourselves drained. We pour our energy into everything: our jobs, our relationships, our devices, our worries. But here's the hard truth. If you're not intentional about where you invest your energy, you'll find yourself emotionally exhausted, pulled in every direction, and losing your ability to stay grounded. The key to staying unbothered is to protect your energy. Like a leader, you must be selective about where and how you spend it. Most people are emotionally unstable, not because life is inherently overwhelming, but because their energy is scattered. Every comment, every notification, every piece of drama pulls at their attention, and attention is life force. When you give your energy to everything around you, your inner state becomes fragile. Think about your typical day. You wake up feeling calm and centered, only to check your phone and instantly get triggered. A message irritates you. A news headline frustrates you. A comparison knocks your confidence. Just like that, your energy is leaking. You've handed over your peace before the day even begins. Now, small inconveniences feel overwhelming, and your emotional control slips away. To stay unbothered, you need to guard your focus. Leaders understand this on a deep level. They don't engage in every debate, respond to every distraction, or participate in every drama. They know that their energy is a precious resource, and they choose where to spend it wisely. Protecting your energy means choosing what deserves your emotional investment and what doesn't. Imagine your energy like a bank account. Every reaction costs something. Every argument costs something. Every mental replay of a past conversation costs something. If you overspend emotionally in the morning, you'll be drained by the afternoon. By the time small inconveniences arise, you'll be emotionally bankrupt. That's why emotional control is directly tied to energy conservation. Here's a practical approach. Start by observing where your energy leaks most. Is it social media? Is it the constant updates you feel compelled to check? Is it certain people who are always complaining? Is it the emotional rumination over past interactions? If you want to protect your energy, begin by eliminating unnecessary input. You don't need to check every message. You don't need to read every comment. You don't need to get involved in every drama. Every time you reduce external noise, you create space for internal calm. Leaders also know the importance of boundaries. If someone consistently drains your energy, whether through negativity, demands, or emotional instability, it's your job to protect your peace. This doesn't mean being confrontational. Sometimes it's about subtle reductions in access. Less exposure, less engagement, and less emotional availability. You don't need to argue or explain your boundaries. You just need to enforce them. Protecting your energy is about being mindful of what you let into your mental and emotional space. It's about practicing controlled input. Think of your mind like a garden. You wouldn't let weeds invade your garden unchecked, so why would you allow negative energy, toxic people, or unnecessary drama to invade your mental space? You must protect it with the same level of care and intention. One way to protect your energy is to limit your exposure to things that drain you. News cycles are designed to keep you anxious and upset. Social media is designed to compare you to others. Your phone is designed to grab your attention at all times, but you don't have to be a victim of these distractions. You can choose when to engage and when to tune out. Another key aspect of energy protection is physical self-care. Your emotional stability is tied to your physical well-being. When you're tired, stressed, or unwell, your patience wears thin and your ability to regulate your emotions diminishes. That's why sleep, exercise, and mindful eating are essential components of emotional mastery. When you feel physically strong, your emotional resilience follows suit. Breathing exercises are also an incredibly powerful tool in protecting your energy. When you're stressed or triggered, your breath shortens, your nervous system goes into fight or flight mode, and your emotional reactivity increases. But when you take deep, slow breaths, you signal to your nervous system that you're safe. This simple act of slowing your breath can reset your emotional state and help you regain control. Protecting your energy also means choosing not to respond immediately. Just because someone else's urgency becomes your problem doesn't mean you need to react right away. You don't need to match their intensity. You don't need to rush to fix everything. Sometimes the best response is no response at all, at least not until you've had time to center yourself and think clearly. Think about this. Someone gets upset at you, and your first instinct is to react immediately. You feel the pressure to explain yourself, to justify your actions, to make them understand. But by responding instantly, you've already lost a bit of your energy. The unbothered person doesn't react immediately. They pause, they breathe. They choose their response with intention, not impulsiveness. This principle applies not just to external interactions, but to your internal dialogue as well. Many people waste a lot of emotional energy on overthinking, worrying about the future, or ruminating on the past. These mental patterns deplete your energy reserves and make it harder to stay calm when life throws you a curveball. To protect your energy, you need to cultivate a mindset of clarity and focus. When you catch yourself spiraling, take a moment to center yourself, reconnect with the present moment, ground yourself in what truly matters. One powerful way to conserve your energy is through solitude. Alone time isn't selfish, it's necessary for emotional restoration. Time spent in solitude gives you the space to reconnect with yourself, to recharge your emotional batteries, and to reflect on your priorities. It's in those quiet moments that you regain your sense of self and remember that your peace is not dependent on the noise around you. As you begin to protect your energy, you'll notice something incredible. You'll feel more steady, more centered, and more unbothered by life's chaos. You won't be swayed by every opinion, every critique, or every piece of drama. Instead, you'll remain focused on what's truly important, your goals, your values, and your peace of mind. In the end, protecting your energy is a form of leadership. It's the ability to stay grounded, no matter how much external chaos surrounds you. When you protect your energy, you protect your emotional stability, and in turn, you create a powerful, calm presence that others are naturally drawn to. If you're ready to step into a life where your energy is protected and your peace is unshakable, subscribe to Blue Wave Audiobook for more insights on becoming the calmest person in the room. We're here to guide you on your journey to emotional mastery. Chapter 9. Choose what deserves your reaction. One of the greatest emotional challenges in life is deciding where to invest your energy and which situations truly deserve your reaction. It's so easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of daily life, responding to every comment, every message, every little inconvenience as if they demand your immediate attention. But here's the secret. Not everything in life deserves your emotional reaction. In fact, a lot of the time, the most powerful thing you can do is choose to remain calm, step back, and not react at all. This is where emotional mastery truly begins. You have the power to decide what gets to move you. Most people live in a constant state of reactivity. They're triggered by notifications, by people's opinions, by delays or setbacks. Their mood swings with the tide of external events. Someone praises them and they rise. Someone criticizes them and they fall. But the truth is, this constant cycle of emotional highs and lows is exhausting. It keeps you in a perpetual state of instability. To stop this cycle, you must learn to consciously decide what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Life will always present you with situations, both big and small, that can trigger a reaction. Someone may cut you off in traffic. A colleague may dismiss your idea. A family member may ignore your request. But how you respond to these situations is what truly matters. Ask yourself this: what outcome do I want here? What's worth my time and emotional investment? For example, if someone criticizes you in a meeting, ask yourself if that criticism is something you can learn from or if it's just their opinion. If it's the latter, does it truly need your emotional energy? Will defending yourself change anything? Or would it be more powerful to simply absorb the feedback without reacting to the person's tone or intention? By choosing not to react, you conserve your energy and maintain your inner calm. Let's break it down with a few scenarios to illustrate this. Imagine you're at work and a colleague challenges your idea in front of others. Your first instinct might be to snap back, to correct them immediately and prove your point. But what if you paused for just a second? What if you asked yourself, does this disagreement truly affect my goals today? Is this the right moment to defend my idea, or would it be better to let it go? By taking a breath, you've already shifted your perspective from reactivity to mindfulness. Similarly, let's say you receive a comment on social media that feels hurtful or judgmental. Instead of immediately reacting or getting defensive, you could pause and ask, what's the cost of engaging with this person? Will my response add value to the conversation, or will it just escalate things further? More often than not, by choosing not to react, you maintain your emotional composure and save yourself the unnecessary emotional toll of a back and forth. Choosing what deserves your reaction is about recognizing that your peace and emotional stability are more important than proving a point. It's about acknowledging that not everything requires your attention or engagement. Some things like criticism, misunderstandings, or drama only deserve your silence. Some people, when they try to provoke you or drag you into conflict, deserve your distance, not your defense. There's power in being selective with your reactions. When you stop reacting to everything, you regain control over your emotional state. You stop being at the mercy of other people's behavior and the unpredictable circumstances of life. You begin to realize that you don't need to prove yourself constantly. You don't need to defend your worth to anyone. Your inner strength comes from your ability to stay calm, centered, and unshaken. This doesn't mean you suppress your emotions or avoid dealing with situations that matter. Not at all. It simply means you stop reacting impulsively to every situation that challenges you. It means you take a moment to assess whether engaging is truly worth your emotional energy. If it's not, then you choose to conserve your energy for what really matters. In a world full of distractions, opinions, and emotional triggers, the ability to decide what deserves your reaction is a game changer. It's a form of emotional leadership. And here's the beautiful part. The more you practice this skill, the stronger you become. You begin to notice how much more at peace you feel, how much more control you have over your emotions, and how much more clarity you experience in everyday life. You stop getting caught up in unnecessary drama, and instead, you start focusing on what truly serves you. There's a saying that goes, you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. The same applies to your emotions. You don't have to engage in every emotional reaction that arises. By choosing what deserves your reaction, you choose peace, clarity, and emotional freedom. Here's a simple exercise for you. The next time you feel triggered, take a step back and ask yourself, what do I want the outcome of this situation to be? Is reacting the best choice for my peace and emotional well-being? This simple question can help you reframe your response and prevent you from falling into automatic reactivity. If you're ready to start making more intentional choices about where to invest your energy, subscribe to Blue Wave Audiobook for more empowering content. Let's continue this journey of mastering emotional control together. Chapter 10. The power of emotional independence. One of the most liberating truths you can embrace in life is that your peace does not depend on anyone else. Your emotional state should never be dictated by the behavior, approval, or disapproval of others. Too often, we allow other people's moods, actions, or words to determine how we feel. A friend doesn't respond to your message. Suddenly, you're anxious. A colleague makes a passing remark. Now you're upset. But here's the reality. When you let others control your emotions, you give away your power. Emotional independence means realizing that you are the only one responsible for your feelings. It's about understanding that your emotional state is yours to maintain. It doesn't depend on the approval of your boss, the behavior of your partner, or the opinions of your friends. When you take ownership of your emotions, you reclaim your personal power. To be emotionally independent, you must stop seeking validation from external sources. This doesn't mean you stop caring about people or their opinions. It means you stop allowing their opinions to rule your inner peace. Whether it's praise, criticism, or silence, none of these things should define how you feel about yourself. Your worth doesn't hinge on anyone else's approval. Your emotional stability doesn't depend on the absence of conflict or the presence of positive feedback. Imagine you're walking into a room and someone looks at you with a disapproving glance. In the past, you might have felt immediately uncomfortable, your mind racing with thoughts like, what did I do wrong? Why don't they like me? But emotional independence changes that. When you're emotionally independent, that disapproving glance no longer affects you. You don't take it personally. You don't spiral into self-doubt. You recognize that their look has nothing to do with your worth. It's just a passing moment. It's liberating to stop depending on other people for your emotional validation. Instead, you learn to validate yourself. You learn to recognize your own value without seeking constant external confirmation. This doesn't mean you stop caring about relationships or feedback. It means you stop needing it to feel okay. When you become emotionally independent, you are free from the constant cycle of seeking approval or fearing rejection. You start to make decisions based on your internal compass, not based on what will make others like you or approve of you. The ability to maintain emotional independence comes with practice. The next time you feel triggered, pause and ask yourself, am I letting someone else control my emotional state right now? If the answer is yes, it's time to shift your perspective. Take a deep breath, center yourself, and remind yourself that you are in control of how you respond. You can choose to rise above the situation, to remain grounded, and to stay true to yourself, regardless of external circumstances. It's important to remember that emotional independence doesn't mean emotional suppression. It's not about ignoring or bottling up your emotions. It's about feeling your emotions fully without letting them control you. Emotional independence means you can feel hurt, anger, or frustration, but those feelings no longer define how you act or how you see yourself. You experience your emotions, but you don't let them hijack your behavior or your peace of mind. A great example of emotional independence is someone who walks into a room and, despite the chaos or tension, remains steady. They don't react impulsively or get caught up in the drama. They maintain their composure because they understand that their emotional state is theirs to control. They don't need the external situation to change for them to feel at peace. When you're emotionally independent, you stop worrying about the judgment or approval of others. You stop chasing after compliments, and you stop internalizing criticism. You understand that your value comes from within. Your actions, your choices, and your response to life's challenges are all guided by your inner clarity, not the approval of others. This level of emotional independence takes time to build, but once you begin practicing it, you'll notice how much calmer and more centered you become. You'll stop feeling reactive to every comment, every setback, every disagreement. Instead, you'll begin to move through life with purpose and intention. Let me share a powerful exercise with you to help you start cultivating emotional independence. The next time you feel emotionally triggered by someone's opinion or behavior, pause, breathe deeply, ask yourself, what am I allowing this person's opinion or action to do to me? How would I feel if I didn't let their words control me? By recognizing when you're giving away your emotional power, you can begin to take it back. The beauty of emotional independence is that it allows you to show up as your true, authentic self. You're no longer trying to manage how others see you or seeking validation for your worth. You can walk into a room and simply be yourself without fear of judgment. You can make decisions based on your values, not based on what others will think. In the end, emotional independence is about choosing to be the person who remains steady, no matter what the world throws at you. It's about not allowing external circumstances to dictate how you feel, how you act, or who you are. When you master emotional independence, you truly become unbothered. Your peace is no longer for sale, and no one can take it from you. If you're ready to take full control of your emotions and build the life you truly deserve, subscribe to Blue Wave Audiobook for more lessons on mastering emotional independence. It's time to reclaim your peace, your power, and your clarity. Chapter 11, The Strength of Silence in Today's World. Everyone seems to have something to say. Opinions are shared freely, debates are constant, and noise fills every corner of our lives. We're expected to react, to respond, to offer our take on everything happening around us. But what if the true power lies not in what we say, but in what we don't? What if the strongest move you could make in some situations is simply to remain silent? Silence is often underestimated. It's seen as passive, weak, or even indifferent. But in reality, silence can be one of the most powerful tools in your emotional toolkit. When you choose silence in the right moment, you regain control over the situation, your emotions, and your energy. You create space for clarity, and you send a powerful message that you're not easily rattled by external circumstances. Think about it: when someone challenges you or criticizes you, what's your first instinct? To defend yourself, right? To explain, to argue, to set the record straight. But what if, instead of reacting, you chose silence? What if you took a breath, paused, and allowed the moment to pass without saying a word? In that pause, you gain a profound amount of control. You prevent yourself from reacting impulsively, from getting caught up in the emotional current of the moment. And more importantly, you keep your energy intact. There's an incredible strength in silence. It allows you to assess the situation, to think before you speak, and to choose your response with intention. In moments of tension, silence can act as a buffer. It gives you the time you need to reflect on whether your words will add value or escalate the conflict. It allows you to disengage from the emotional chaos around you and instead remain grounded and centered. Let me share an example. Picture a heated conversation at work where someone sharply criticizes your idea. The room feels tense and everyone is waiting for your reaction. The usual response would be to jump in, defend your idea, or explain why you're right. But instead, you remain silent for a few seconds. You breathe deeply, allowing the tension to dissipate. In those few moments, you're not reacting emotionally. You're not feeling defensive. You're simply holding space for clarity to emerge. And when you finally respond, your words are calm, measured, and thoughtful. Your silence has given you the strength to choose your response, rather than reacting from a place of emotion. Silence also protects you from unnecessary conflict. How many times have you gotten involved in a conversation or argument simply because you felt the need to speak your truth or defend your ego? When you choose silence, you avoid engaging in battles that won't serve you. You recognize that not every comment, every disagreement, or every criticism is worth your energy. Instead of getting caught up in unnecessary drama, you conserve your emotional reserves, allowing you to focus on what truly matters. The strength of silence also comes into play in relationships. Think about how often we feel compelled to explain ourselves, to justify our actions, or to seek validation from others. In relationships, silence can be a form of self-respect. When you stop over-explaining or defending your actions, you allow space for others to respect your boundaries and your decisions. Here's a practical exercise. The next time you feel emotionally triggered, instead of reacting immediately, take a moment of silence. Simply breathe and observe the situation. What's really happening here? What do I want the outcome to be? Do I need to say something, or can I let the moment pass without adding fuel to the fire? This exercise gives you the power to remain grounded and unshaken, regardless of external circumstances. Silence isn't about shutting down or withdrawing from the world. It's about choosing when to speak and when to remain quiet. It's about recognizing that not every situation demands your reaction. Some moments are better served by your stillness, your calm, and your ability to stay centered. When you master the strength of silence, you stop being pulled into every emotional drama. You stop feeling the need to explain yourself or defend your actions. And in doing so, you become more powerful, more focused, and more in control of your emotional state. The beauty of silence is that it doesn't just protect your energy, it also allows others to reveal themselves. When you remain silent in the face of criticism or provocation, you give the other person the space to reveal their true intentions. You don't need to engage in every exchange. Sometimes, silence is the most revealing response because it forces others to confront themselves, not you. There's a saying that goes, silence is the most powerful scream. This may seem counterintuitive, but when you remain silent, you're sending a message that you don't need to engage in every battle. You're showing that your peace is more important than proving a point. And in a world filled with noise, that quiet strength becomes incredibly magnetic. People begin to respect you more because they recognize that you don't need to raise your voice to command attention or influence a situation. The more you practice the strength of silence, the more you'll notice how much more at peace you feel. You'll stop reacting impulsively. You'll stop getting caught up in every argument or emotional reaction. And in doing so, you'll build a sense of inner calm that others will naturally gravitate toward. If you're ready to tap into the power of silence and gain emotional control, subscribe to Blue Wave Audiobook. Let's continue this journey of becoming the calmest person in the room. Chapter 12. Cultivate patience and embrace timing. In the fast-paced world we live in, patience often feels like a rare virtue. We're constantly pushed to do more, achieve more, and be more faster. We check our phones every minute, we seek instant results, and we live in a culture of immediate gratification. But here's the hard truth. Patience is not just a virtue, it's a strategic power that can transform your life. The true test of emotional mastery isn't how you handle success or positive events. It's how you deal with waiting, with uncertainty, and with things not going your way. Patience is the ability to remain steady, calm, and composed when life doesn't unfold according to your timeline. And when you learn to master patience, you begin to control the narrative of your life. Consider this. How often do you feel impatient when things aren't moving fast enough? Maybe you're waiting for a job offer, a response from someone, or for a project to come together. The waiting period feels uncomfortable. Your mind races. You start second-guessing yourself, wondering if you're doing enough or if you're on the right path. But here's the truth: when you allow impatience to take over, you're losing your sense of control. You're allowing time itself to dictate your pace. Patience isn't about sitting idly by and doing nothing. It's about maintaining your inner peace and focus while waiting. It's about understanding that things unfold in their own time and that rushing them doesn't help. You can still take action, you can still put in the work, but patience gives you the clarity to know when to step back and when to keep pushing forward. Here's the key: when you practice patience, you stop reacting impulsively to delays or setbacks. You stop feeling like you have to fill every gap in your timeline with frantic action. Instead, you allow space for things to evolve naturally. You understand that life doesn't always work on your schedule, but that doesn't mean things won't work out. You trust the process, and in doing so, you cultivate peace. Let's dive into an example. Imagine you've been working hard on a project, and you're waiting for feedback or a response. It's easy to start feeling frustrated, checking your email every 5 minutes, wondering why no one is getting back to you. That's impatience taking over. But when you practice patience, you stop checking constantly. You trust that the response will come in its own time, and in the meantime, you keep your focus on other tasks, maintaining your peace without the constant pull of anticipation. Patience also teaches you how to handle challenges without reacting emotionally. Life will throw obstacles your way, plans will fall apart, things won't go according to plan, and your goals may feel out of reach at times. But instead of panicking, you choose patience. You choose to wait for the right opportunity, to take the necessary steps, and to believe that things will fall into place when the time is right. Another aspect of patience is learning to embrace timing. Sometimes life asks us to wait, not because we're not ready, but because we need time to grow, to learn, or to prepare. Embracing the timing of life means you understand that you don't need everything to happen right now. You're willing to wait for the right moment, for the perfect opportunity, and for the right circumstances to align. The most successful people understand this. They don't rush their journey. They embrace timing and allow things to unfold as they should. They know when to act, and they know when to step back and allow life to catch up. They understand that sometimes the best thing you can do is wait, and that waiting doesn't mean doing nothing. It means staying calm, staying grounded, and staying focused on your path. Patience also means that you stop comparing your journey to others. In today's social media-driven world, it's easy to feel like everyone else is moving faster, achieving more, and living their best lives right now. But remember, your journey is unique. Comparing your progress to someone else's is a shortcut to frustration and impatience. When you embrace your own timing, you stop measuring yourself against others. You trust that your path is unfolding exactly as it should, even if it's taking a little longer than you expected. One powerful exercise for cultivating patience is practicing mindfulness. When you find yourself feeling impatient or frustrated, take a moment to pause and focus on your breath. Ground yourself in the present moment. Ask yourself, what's in my control right now? If it's the action you're taking, do it with intention. If it's waiting for something outside of your control, trust that it will come when the time is right. This simple act of mindfulness shifts your perspective from impatience to acceptance. The beauty of patience is that it doesn't just help you manage your emotions in moments of waiting, it also builds emotional resilience. When you learn to wait with peace, you learn to handle anything that life throws at you with grace. You become unshaken by delays or setbacks because you've learned that time doesn't control you. You control how you respond to it. Patience is the key to emotional stability. It teaches you to accept life as it is, to trust the process, and to remain calm even in the face of uncertainty. The more you practice patience, the more you'll notice how much easier it becomes to stay unbothered by the twists and turns of life. You'll stop rushing, stop stressing, and start trusting in the timing of your own journey. If you're ready to cultivate patience in your life and embrace the timing of your journey, subscribe to Blue Wave Audiobook. We're here to help you stay calm, focused, and unbothered, no matter what life throws your way. Chapter 13. Let go of the need for constant validation in a world that thrives on external approval. it's easy to get caught up in seeking validation from others. We look for praise, recognition, and reassurance to feel worthy, to feel seen. We post on social media hoping for likes. We share our achievements hoping for compliments. And we seek affirmation from our friends, colleagues, and even strangers. But here's the truth: constant validation is a trap. It's a cycle that keeps you emotionally dependent on the opinions of others, and it steals your inner peace. The need for validation is deeply tied to our sense of self-worth. We want others to confirm that we're doing well, that we're valuable, that we're enough. But when you constantly seek approval from the outside world, you hand over your emotional control. You let other people's opinions shape how you feel about yourself. Your worth becomes contingent on how others see you, and that makes you vulnerable. True emotional strength comes when you stop needing validation from others. When you stop seeking praise and recognition to feel good about yourself, you step into your own power. You stop waiting for others to affirm your worth. Instead, you validate yourself. You recognize that your value doesn't depend on the approval of others. Your worth is inherent, and no one else's opinion can take that away from you. Let's explore this concept further. How often do you feel anxious about what others think of you? How often do you find yourself looking for signs that you're doing well, whether it's a like on a post, a compliment from a friend, or a positive review at work? The desire for validation can become a constant pull, draining your emotional energy and undermining your confidence. When you choose to stop seeking validation, something powerful happens. You become emotionally independent. You no longer need external approval to feel good about yourself. Your sense of self-worth is no longer determined by the opinions of others. Instead, it's anchored in your own sense of value. You can stand firm in who you are without needing anyone else to tell you that you're okay. The first step in breaking free from the need for validation is awareness. The next time you feel that urge to seek approval, whether it's checking for likes, waiting for compliments, or seeking praise, pause. Ask yourself, why am I looking for this approval? What would happen if I didn't get it? You'll realize that your emotional state doesn't have to depend on what others think. You can give yourself the validation you're seeking by simply acknowledging your own worth. Another powerful way to let go of the need for constant validation is to embrace the concept of self-affirmation. Instead of waiting for others to validate you, take time to validate yourself. Celebrate your own accomplishments, no matter how small. Recognize your strengths, your progress, and your unique qualities. When you do this, you build a strong foundation of self-worth that doesn't rely on the ever-changing opinions of others. For example, instead of waiting for someone to tell you that you did a great job, tell yourself. Instead of waiting for validation from social media, trust in your own abilities and recognize your worth. You don't need someone else's approval to know that you're on the right path. When you affirm yourself, you create an unshakable foundation of confidence that doesn't waver based on external feedback. Letting go of the need for validation doesn't mean you stop caring about people's opinions altogether. It means you stop letting their opinions control your emotional state. You stop allowing praise or criticism to define your sense of self. Instead, you listen to feedback constructively, but don't let it affect your internal peace. You recognize that their opinions are just that, opinions, and they don't determine your worth. Here's an example. Let's say you're working on a project and you've put in a lot of effort. You submit your work and the response you get is lukewarm at best. In the past, this might have made you feel defeated, like your effort wasn't good enough. But now, when you stop seeking validation, you can recognize that the lack of praise doesn't reflect your value. It's simply one person's opinion, and it doesn't diminish your worth or the effort you put into the project. You can also start practicing detaching your self-worth from external outcomes. Whether you succeed or fail in a particular situation, your worth remains the same. Your efforts are valuable, not because they receive external validation, but because they are authentic expressions of who you are. When you start recognizing this, the need for validation starts to fade, and you begin to operate from a place of inner confidence. This shift in mindset requires consistent practice. The more you practice self-validation, the more you'll notice how much stronger and more grounded you feel. You'll stop looking for external sources of approval and start recognizing that your internal sense of worth is all you need. Letting go of the need for validation also frees you from the trap of comparison. When you stop seeking approval, you no longer feel the need to measure yourself against others. You stop comparing your achievements, your appearance, or your life to someone else's. This comparison is a major source of anxiety and dissatisfaction. But when you embrace your own value, you can focus on your own journey without getting distracted by what others are doing. Here's a quick exercise to help you start practicing self-validation. Take a moment each day to reflect on your accomplishments, no matter how small. Celebrate your wins, acknowledge your strengths, affirm your worth. By doing this regularly, you build an internal foundation of confidence that no one else can take away from you. The more you practice self-validation, the more unshakable your sense of self becomes. You stop seeking approval, and in doing so, you become free. Free from the need to please others, free from the pressure to constantly prove yourself, and free to live authentically. Your peace no longer depends on the opinions of others. It's an inside job. If you're ready to stop seeking external validation and start building your inner confidence, subscribe to Blue Wave Audiobook. We're here to guide you on the journey to emotional independence and self-empowerment. Chapter 14, The Power of Letting Go. One of the most profound lessons in emotional mastery is learning the art of letting go. Life is full of things that we hold on to: our past, grudges, expectations, attachments, and even our fear of the future. We often cling to these things because they feel familiar, because they give us a sense of control, or because they protect us from uncertainty. But in truth, holding on to the wrong things can be a source of emotional turmoil and drain your energy. The real power lies in the ability to let go. Letting go doesn't mean giving up or resigning yourself to a passive existence. It means releasing what no longer serves you, what hinders your growth, and what keeps you tied to a version of yourself that no longer aligns with who you want to be. Letting go is a choice. It's the conscious decision to stop carrying emotional baggage that weighs you down. Think about it. How often do you find yourself clinging to negative emotions, memories, or relationships that no longer contribute to your well-being? Maybe it's a past hurt that you keep reliving, a grudge you've been holding onto for years, or a relationship that has run its course but you're unwilling to let go. The problem is that when you hold on to these things, they continue to take up mental and emotional space. They prevent you from moving forward. They block your emotional freedom. Letting go starts with awareness. The first step is recognizing what you're holding onto and why. Why do you keep replaying that hurt from the past? Why do you continue to seek closure from someone who may never give it to you? Why are you holding on to anger or resentment towards someone who doesn't even think about you anymore? The answer usually comes down to attachment, the emotional bond we form to experiences, people, or things that once brought us comfort or meaning. But here's the reality: attachment can often become unhealthy. We become so emotionally connected to certain outcomes or situations that we forget that we are capable of creating our own happiness, peace, and fulfillment. We begin to attach our sense of self-worth to those things. But when we release these attachments, we gain the freedom to grow, to evolve, and to step into a new version of ourselves. Letting go is also about accepting that some things are beyond our control. Life doesn't always go the way we want it to. People come and go, plans fall apart, things don't happen as we expect. And while we can't control every circumstance, we can control how we respond. Letting go means accepting that some things simply aren't meant to be, and that's okay. One of the most powerful things you can do is let go of the fear of the future. How many times have you worried about what might happen, about things you can't predict? We waste so much emotional energy worrying about outcomes that are beyond our control. But when you let go of that fear, you free yourself from unnecessary stress. You give yourself permission to be in the present moment, to enjoy what you have now, and to trust that things will unfold as they're meant to. Letting go also means freeing yourself from the burden of trying to control others. We all have relationships, whether personal, professional, or family-related, where we try to control the outcome or influence the behavior of others. But the truth is, you can't control people. And when you try, you only create frustration and anxiety for yourself. Letting go of the need to control others is liberating. It allows you to focus on what you can control: your own actions, your own responses, and your own well-being. Here's a simple exercise to help you practice letting go. The next time you find yourself feeling anxious, frustrated, or emotionally drained by something or someone, pause. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, What am I holding on to right now? What is no longer serving me? Then make the conscious decision to release it. You don't need to hold on to it anymore. It doesn't have power over you unless you let it. This doesn't mean you forget about the past or that you suppress your emotions. Letting go isn't about denying what you've experienced or felt. It's about choosing not to let those experiences continue to control your emotional state. It's about acknowledging the past, feeling the emotions, and then choosing to move forward. You can honor your feelings without letting them dictate your actions. The more you practice letting go, the more peaceful you'll become. You'll stop carrying around unnecessary emotional baggage. You'll stop being attached to outcomes that are beyond your control, and as a result, you'll find yourself living with greater freedom and ease. In the end, letting go is a process. It's not something you do once and forget about. It's a practice you cultivate every day. With each moment of release, you create more space for peace, for joy, and for clarity. And as you let go of the things that weigh you down, you make room for the things that truly matter: love, growth, and emotional freedom. If you're ready to start releasing the things that no longer serve you and stepping into emotional freedom, subscribe to Blue Wave Audiobook. Let us guide you on the journey to letting go and embracing a life of peace, power, and emotional mastery. Chapter 15. Build Your Inner Fortress. Life is full of challenges, setbacks, and surprises. People will test your patience, your values, and your strength. Circumstances will challenge your peace, and unexpected events will try to throw you off course. But here's the key. The stronger your inner fortress, the less impact these external forces will have on you. Building emotional resilience isn't about avoiding challenges. It's about strengthening your ability to navigate them with calmness, clarity, and confidence. An inner fortress is built on a foundation of self-awareness, self-control, and emotional strength. It's the ability to stay grounded even in the most chaotic of situations. It's the ability to stay unbothered, not because you're immune to difficulty, but because you've developed the mental and emotional tools to manage it effectively. When your inner fortress is strong, you can face any storm that comes your way without crumbling. The first step in building your inner fortress is self-awareness. Understanding who you are, what you value, and what truly matters to you is the bedrock of emotional resilience. Self-awareness gives you the clarity to see through external distractions, to understand your triggers, and to respond with intention rather than reaction. The stronger your understanding of yourself, the less vulnerable you are to the opinions, judgments, or actions of others. You no longer let external noise dictate your emotional state. Self-awareness also helps you identify areas where you might be emotionally weak or reactive. Are you easily triggered by criticism? Do you find it difficult to stay calm when things don't go as planned? Recognizing these patterns gives you the power to change them. When you can see your emotional responses clearly, you can consciously choose a better way to respond. And that's the foundation of building your inner fortress. The next layer of this fortress is self-control. It's the ability to manage your emotions rather than letting them control you. Life will always present you with challenges. People will disagree with you, disappoint you, or even disrespect you. But when you have self-control, you don't let these situations dictate your behavior. Instead, you respond thoughtfully and calmly. Self-control is about recognizing your emotions and choosing to act with intention, not impulsively. One of the best ways to practice self-control is through mindfulness. When you're aware of your emotions in the present moment, you give yourself the opportunity to pause and choose your response. If someone criticizes you, instead of reacting immediately, take a deep breath. Feel the emotion rise, but choose not to be controlled by it. Give yourself a moment to think, to process, and to respond in a way that aligns with your values. Building your inner fortress also means embracing the idea of emotional flexibility. It's the ability to adapt to life's challenges without losing your center. Some days will be harder than others. You might face unexpected challenges, or things might not go as planned. But when your emotional flexibility is strong, you can navigate these ups and downs without getting knocked off course. You bend, but you don't break. Emotional flexibility is about being open to change, to uncertainty, and to discomfort without letting it overwhelm you. It's about staying adaptable while maintaining your core sense of self. Life is unpredictable, but when you can adapt to those unpredictabilities with calmness and resilience, you remain unshaken. Another key to building your inner fortress is learning to protect your energy. Just as you would guard your physical health by avoiding harmful situations, you must also protect your emotional health. That means setting boundaries with people, limiting exposure to negativity, and being selective about where you invest your energy. Your emotional energy is a finite resource, and the more wisely you manage it, the stronger your inner fortress becomes. Think about the people and situations in your life that drain you emotionally. Are there certain relationships that consistently leave you feeling exhausted or upset? Are there negative thought patterns you keep replaying in your mind? It's important to recognize these energy drains and set boundaries around them. This doesn't mean cutting people off or avoiding difficult situations entirely, but it does mean taking steps to protect your peace. By setting clear boundaries and limiting your exposure to negativity, you ensure that your inner fortress remains strong and intact. As you continue to build your emotional resilience, remember that it's not about becoming immune to the storms of life. It's about learning to weather them with strength and grace. You won't always be able to control what happens around you, but you can control how you respond. You can choose to stay steady, calm, and unbothered in the face of adversity. That's the power of building an inner fortress. Finally, remember that building emotional resilience is a lifelong journey. Your inner fortress isn't something you build overnight. It's a process of ongoing growth, learning, and practice. But with every challenge you face, you add another layer to that fortress. With every moment of self-awareness, self-control, and emotional flexibility, you make it stronger. And over time, you'll find that the things that once threw you off course no longer have the same power over you. You'll become a person who can stand firm, unshaken, no matter what life throws your way. If you're ready to build a stronger emotional foundation and create an unshakable inner fortress, subscribe to Blue Wave Audiobook. We're here to guide you on your journey of emotional mastery, resilience, and peace. Chapter 16. Trust in the Process. Life is a journey full of unexpected twists, turns, and challenges. At times, it may feel like you're putting in all the effort, doing everything right, and yet the results just aren't coming as quickly as you hoped. Frustration sets in, and doubt creeps in as you wonder if all your hard work is worth it. But here's a key principle in mastering your emotions: trust in the process. Trusting the process means believing that everything you're doing now, every step you're taking, is preparing you for the outcomes you desire, even if those outcomes aren't immediately visible. It's about understanding that growth, whether emotional, personal, or professional, often happens in ways that aren't always immediate or obvious. The seeds you plant today may take time to sprout, but that doesn't mean they aren't growing. We live in a world where instant results are often expected, and the pressure to see quick progress can be overwhelming. But true growth, real change, and lasting success don't always come in an instant. Sometimes they come after a long period of hard work, patience, and perseverance. When you trust the process, you stop focusing on immediate results and start focusing on the long-term vision. Think about a time when you worked hard for something that took longer than expected to come to fruition. Maybe you worked toward a goal, whether it was personal development, career growth, or a relationship, and at times, it felt like things weren't progressing. It was easy to question your path, to doubt whether all the effort was even worth it. But in the end, you realized that those struggles were part of the process. They were shaping you, teaching you, and preparing you for what you wanted to achieve. Trusting the process is all about patience and faith. It's about believing that even when things seem uncertain, your efforts are not in vain. Every challenge you face, every setback you experience, is a lesson that adds to your growth. When you trust that the journey itself is just as important as the destination, you free yourself from the stress of needing everything to happen right away. It's also important to note that trusting the process doesn't mean sitting back and doing nothing. Trusting the process is active. It's about doing the work, putting in the effort, and showing up day after day with the belief that your efforts will lead to growth, even if you can't see it yet. It's about taking consistent action while maintaining the understanding that timing, and sometimes even circumstances, need to align for things to truly take off. Here's an example of how trusting the process plays out in real life. Imagine you're starting a new project, whether it's a business, a creative endeavor, or a personal goal. You may have an idea of where you want to go, but in the beginning, things don't seem to progress as fast as you imagined. You may face delays, setbacks, or moments where you feel like you're hitting a wall. But trusting the process means staying committed, continuing to take action, and having faith that things will unfold when the time is right. It's about not getting discouraged by the lack of immediate results and focusing on the small, incremental progress you're making each day. Another aspect of trusting the process is embracing the unknown. Life rarely goes exactly as planned. There will always be uncertainties, unexpected changes, and moments where things don't turn out the way you imagined. But when you trust the process, you stop trying to control every variable. You let go of the need for perfection and embrace the flow of life. You recognize that not everything is meant to be controlled, and sometimes, letting go allows things to unfold naturally.